Okay, now that we talked a little bit about setting up a good base and learning to play pool and doing so in a conscious way so that you kind of understand what you're doing. Sometimes you don't have, every little detail in pool matters. This is a game of precision, a sport of precision. That's what makes it such a beautiful game. There's nothing like having access to a really high quality table. And frankly, sometimes when you go out and you find tables that are at public places, they may not be the most maintained tables. The worst of them would be that they're not level, and as you hit a ball, you can't count on the result, especially if you're playing pool slowly or you hit a ball really softly in order to set up the next shot. If it's not level, it could be that the ball starts to curve and doesn't take the correct path because the table is not level. Fortunately, even when tables aren't really maintained very well, even when they're at bars and they don't move around a lot, they tend to still be level. It just could be that the felt's not in great condition. There might be some dirt on it and stuff like that, and you could clean the felt. All these things would be great to have clean felt, to have a level table, so you can count on the balls acting normal instead of having things like anything on the surface that takes away from the roll of the ball, or a table that's not level so you can't count on the ball rolling level, so that any mistakes would be in how you didn't take the correct shot instead of other things that creep into your abilities when you're playing pool. Now let's talk about the stick too. Most of your tables out and about are going to be level, and you can account for if there's the surface is a little dirty. It's not going to be that big a deal. Now the sticks make a big difference. So if you like to play pool and you want to start to get good at it, I would recommend that you buy a stick that you're comfortable with the price, but something that's straight, that you take care of, that's not all beat up, so that when you rub it across your base, you rub it across your hand, it doesn't have a bunch of dimples in it, and it feels comfortable, and it is smooth. And then let's talk about the tip. Let me come show you the tip. The tip is actually very important. So I'm going to show you on my tip. You may or may not be able to see this, but it's rough enough that it actually collects chalk, okay? So my table's green, so the chalk's green. If it was blue, it'd probably be blue. If it's red, it'd be red. So when I put chalk on here, it actually holds it. So the chalk takes really well. Now what chalk does is much like in gymnastics. If you put chalk all over your hands, it makes it to where the cue is going to strike the cue ball in such a way where if you want to play English on it and grab the cue ball in different ways, the stick will make good contact with the ball, and you'll be able to produce different forces on the cue ball successfully because your stick is able to stick to it. That's what chalk does for you as grip. Now if chalk doesn't stick to your stick, or your Q-tip, because the tip isn't porous enough, isn't rough enough, and it doesn't hold chalk, then a tendency is for your cue to slip off. So when you make contact with the ball, it might ding the ball and not really make good contact with it because it slips off of it because the chalk doesn't hold on to the Q-tip. So all these things matter. So ideally you can get a Q stick that has a good round tip on it. Now the curvature of it, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a round curvature to the Q-tip, which allows you to play English on the cue ball and to hit it other than center off to the side, and the curvature is able to make good contact with the cue no matter where you strike it. If your Q-tip is straight and not very curved on the sides, then you're not able to really make good contact with the cue ball when you're hitting it not center but off to the side because it's straight. So once again, doesn't make good solid contact with the cue ball. You want a rounded tip, and when you control your cue stick, if you carry this to go play with now, you can control the fact that your tip takes the chalk very well and it's rounded in such a way where you can play good English on the ball. Now, I'm going to give you all an example of how you use English in a game of pool. This is where it gets really fun. So once you have a good solid base, you can count on your stroke being very consistent and straight. Every time you're going to shoot the ball, you're going to shoot right through it, and you're going to follow through it consistently. Once you have that down now, if I hit this cue ball without English, here's what's going to happen, okay? If I hit this ball down in the corner and I hit normal, no matter how hard I hit it, it's gonna wanna continue to follow a little bit. Now, you see this too. If my cue ball ends up down the table a ways, this opponent's ball is in the way for me being able to strike my 2, and I'm not gonna have a good shot on my 6 to make any pocket unless I bank it, right? So now with this setup, what I'm thinking is, I wanna make this 4 ball in the corner. I wanna use English in order to suck my cue ball back. So I'm gonna hit lower English for a lower rotation that's gonna spin my cue ball back. Once I make contact with a 4 down there, it's gonna spin back, and depending on how hard I hit it, I can roll it back to here or here or here. And I wanna get as far back as I can to where I almost have a straight shot, so that now once I make the 6 ball next, my cue ball can respond in such a way where I can stay on this side of the 2 and make the 2 in the corner, okay? If I only suck the cue ball here, I can still slice this 6 ball. But now once I slice that 6 ball, my cue ball is gonna come down here. Once again, I have an opponent's ball that's in the way from getting a good angle to make the 2. It's in the way. It could block my next shot. So if I'm thinking 2 shots after the shot I'm making, I wanna suck this cue ball back to where I'm almost going straight into that pocket, so that once I make contact with the 6, I'm able to follow the cue ball, maybe hit upper English, so that it spins forward and end up on this side of the 2 so I can make the 2 down in the corner. So let me show you this in action. I'm gonna use lower English. I'm gonna make the 4. This is assuming that I'm good enough. I haven't been playing a lot, but I think I'm good enough to accomplish this. So we'll see. So I'm gonna suck the cue ball. I'm trying to get it down here, so I can now make that 6, and then I can make the 6 to where I can leave my cue ball in this way to make the 2 down the corner. So I'm gonna try and suck this ball back as I make the 4, assuming I can make the 4. You see that? Now I come down here, and I have a great shot now. Now, it's always good to put more chalk on your cue ball, because once again, I'm going to use a little English. I don't want to slip off the cue. I'm going to hit on top of the cue ball. I'm going to hit on top of upper English to follow the cue. Once I make this shot, I want to bring the white ball down closer to the rail without making it so far that I make it into the pocket. And now, I have a shot down to the corner. So you can see, that's how you use English to set this up. Now, I would have been better off if I was a little farther off this cushion, because it gives me a harder shot now, because I can't strike the cue ball as much. But now I'm going to try and make it down in that corner. And I missed it. But that is how you use English to think 2 or 3 shots ahead so that you can play your cue ball around and work the table, as opposed to just hitting normal English right down the center of the cue ball, and now I'm not able to dodge certain opponent's balls that are getting in the way of my next shots. See you next time.